Breaking news. Russia's president's war speech has backfired significantly. Ukraine has just wiped out the key Black Sea oil route.
December 2, 2025. Putin stands in the Kremlin threatening Europe with war. Less than 24 hours later, Ukraine's intelligence agents blow up Russia's Druzhba oil pipeline. Putin's harsh words, they meant nothing. His billion-dollar oil revenue going up in flames. This wasn't random, this was calculated revenge. And Putin walked right into it. Putin spent last week making his boldest threats yet. At a press conference in Bishkek, he warned that Russia was ready to fight Europe if they interfered with peace talks. He called Ukrainian attacks on Russian oil tankers acts of piracy. He demanded Ukraine surrender territory or face total destruction. Strong words from a man who thought he held all the cards. Then came December 2nd. U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner flew to Moscow to discuss Trump's peace plan. The meeting lasted 5 hours. Putin sat there confident. He told them Russia wouldn't compromise. He repeated his demands: Ukraine must withdraw from Donetsk and Luhansk. Kyiv must recognize Russia's occupation of Crimea. No NATO membership, ever. Putin thought he was negotiating from strength. Russian forces were advancing in eastern Ukraine. They just claimed victory in Pokrovsk, though Ukraine disputed it. The grinding war of attrition seemed to favor Moscow. Putin projected power. He talked about fighting until spring. He said Russia could go on indefinitely. But while Putin was busy posturing in Moscow, Ukrainian intelligence was busy preparing something else. Something explosive. The Druzhba pipeline, one of the world's largest oil arteries. It pumps 1.2 to 1.5 million barrels of Russian crude per day through Belarus and Ukraine into Central Europe. Hungary and Slovakia depend on it completely. It generates billions for Putin's war machine. Without it, Russia's economy bleeds. Ukraine had been watching this pipeline for months. They'd struck it before in August and September, causing temporary shutdowns. But this time would be different. This time, the strike would send a message louder than any speech Putin could give. December 1st, the first night of winter. Near the village of Kazinske Vyselki in Tambov Oblast, a quiet settlement along the Taganrog-Lipetsk section of the pipeline, Russian residents went about their evening routines. Nobody noticed anything unusual. Then at precisely the right moment, Ukrainian agents activated their device. The explosion was massive. Witnesses heard a thunderous roar that echoed across the countryside. Bright flashes lit up the night sky. Orange flames erupted hundreds of feet into the air. Videos captured the moment and spread across Russian social media within minutes. Local residents couldn't believe what they were seeing. This wasn't just any bomb. Ukrainian intelligence had used remote detonated explosives combined with additional incendiary mixtures. The goal wasn't just to damage the pipeline. The goal was to create an inferno, to maximize the burning, to make sure Russian oil didn't just stop flowing temporarily, it would burn spectacularly. The timing was perfect, brutal. While Trump's envoys were still in Moscow, while Putin was still making threats about Russian strength, his pipeline was erupting in flames. The symbolism couldn't be clearer. Your threats are empty. Your infrastructure is vulnerable. We can strike whenever we want. A source in Ukraine's military intelligence confirmed what everyone suspected. They did it. They planted the explosives. They triggered them remotely, and they weren't apologizing. The source told multiple media outlets the same thing. The Russian oil network, which funds the aggressor state and its military-industrial complex, will continue to explode and burn until the enemy stops attacking Ukraine. That statement hit harder than any missile. Ukraine wasn't just fighting defensively anymore. They were taking the war to Russia's economic heart. Refineries, pipelines, oil depots, tankers, nothing was off limits. Putin's response? Silence. No furious press conference. No emergency military orders, just quiet damage control. Because what could he say? That Ukraine proved his threats meaningless, that his pipeline security was a joke, that while he was busy threatening Europe, his own infrastructure was burning. The Druzhba attack was just the latest in Ukraine's relentless campaign. Throughout November, Ukrainian drones hit Russian oil refineries 14 times, a monthly record. The Ryazan refinery, one of Russia's largest, had been offline since mid-November after Ukrainian drones crippled its main processing unit. The Afipsky plant near Krasnodar took multiple hits. The Kurishi refinery in northwestern Russia, capable of processing 355,000 barrels per day, got struck hard. Russia was hemorrhaging refining capacity. By late October, more than half of Russia's 38 major refineries had been hit at least once, some multiple times. Fuel shortages spread across 10 Russian regions. Gas stations ran dry, prices spiked. Regional governors confirmed the crisis publicly. But Putin kept talking tough. He kept threatening, he kept demanding surrender. Then Ukraine struck the Druzhba pipeline and exposed the reality. Russia's energy infrastructure was crumbling under sustained Ukrainian attacks. Every threat Putin made just highlighted how vulnerable his position actually was. The Druzhba pipeline supplies Hungary and Slovakia, the only EU countries still importing Russian crude. Both nations' leaders maintain close ties with Moscow. Both have resisted tougher EU sanctions. Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó called Ukrainian strikes on the pipeline unacceptable. He warned about Hungary's energy sovereignty. Ukraine's response, strike it again. December 1st proved that diplomatic complaints from Budapest and Bratislava meant nothing. Ukraine would hit Russian oil infrastructure regardless of who complained. The message was clear: stop funding Russia's war or watch your supplies burn. The economic damage from these strikes is staggering. Russia remains the world's second-largest oil exporter. Oil revenues fund Putin's entire war effort, every refinery knocked offline, every pipeline explosion, every tanker crippled. That's billions less for missiles, tanks, ammunition, soldier salaries. Ukraine understood something fundamental. You can't fight a modern war without money. You can't sustain military operations without fuel. Hit the refineries and Russia struggles to produce gasoline for military vehicles. Hit the pipelines and export revenues collapse. Hit the tankers and international buyers get nervous. This strategy is working. Evidence keeps mounting. Russian regions report fuel shortages that didn't exist before. Export operations face delays from damaged port infrastructure. Insurance costs for Russian oil shipments are skyrocketing. Ship managers are refusing to send vessels to Russian ports. Meanwhile, Putin's November 27th speech in Bishkek looked increasingly ridiculous in retrospect. He'd warned that Russia was ready to fight Europe. He'd threatened anyone supporting Ukraine. He'd projected confidence about battlefield advances. He demanded territorial concessions. Then Ukraine blew up his pipeline and proved his words were hollow. Russia couldn't even protect its most critical infrastructure. What chance did they have against a sustained campaign? The contrast was stark. Putin makes speeches, Ukraine makes explosions. Putin threatens consequences, Ukraine delivers consequences. Putin talks about Russian strength, Ukraine demonstrates Russian weakness. Ukrainian President Zelensky had said it best weeks earlier. The most effective sanctions are the fires at Russia's oil refineries, terminals, and oil depots. Russia's war is essentially a function of oil and gas. He was right. Cut off the oil revenue and Russia's war machine sputters. The November attacks set records: 14 refinery strikes, multiple pipeline explosions, 4 attacks on oil handling facilities at Black Sea ports causing shipment delays, 2 sanctioned tankers hit by Ukrainian sea drones, another tanker struck off the coast of Senegal. Putin called these attacks piracy. Ukraine called them legitimate military targets. The international community stayed mostly quiet because everyone understood the reality. Russia was using oil money to fund an illegal invasion. Ukraine had every right to target that revenue stream. By December 3rd, when news of the Druzhba explosion spread globally, the strategic picture was clear. Ukraine had launched an energy war against Russia, and they were winning it, one explosion at a time, one refinery fire at a time, one pipeline rupture at a time. Putin's December 2nd meeting with Witkoff and Kushner ended with no breakthrough. Russian aide Yuri Ushakov confirmed both sides remained far apart on territorial issues. No compromise had been reached. Putin maintained his hardline demands. But those demands rang hollow now. Because while Putin was demanding Ukrainian surrender, Ukraine was systematically destroying Russia's ability to sustain the war economically. Every day Ukraine delayed, every week they held out, Russia's oil infrastructure took more damage. Russia's revenue dried up further. Russia's strategic position weakened. The psychological impact was just as important. Russian citizens watching videos of their pipelines exploding on social media. Russian soldiers wondering if fuel shipments would arrive. Russian officials scrambling to repair damage faster than Ukraine could inflict it. This wasn't the narrative Putin wanted. He wanted to project strength, to intimidate Ukraine into submission, to force Western allies to abandon Kyiv. Instead, his threats backfired spectacularly. They motivated Ukraine to strike harder, to prove Putin's words meant nothing. The Druzhba pipeline explosion on December 1st became a symbol of Ukrainian defiance, a symbol of Russian vulnerability, a symbol that no matter how much Putin threatened, Ukraine would keep fighting back. And they would keep burning Russia's oil infrastructure until the war ended. Just like their intelligence source promised, the Russian oil network will continue to explode and burn until the enemy stops attacking Ukraine. Putin's war speech backfired, his threats fell flat, his pipeline burned, and Ukraine proved once again that precision beats power, that determination beats bluster, that actions speak louder than words. Putin wanted to negotiate from strength. Instead, he's negotiating while his oil infrastructure burns. That's not strength, that's desperation wrapped in tough talk. Ukraine exposed that desperation with one perfectly timed explosion. And they're not stopping. The oil will keep burning, the refineries will keep exploding, the pipelines will keep rupturing. Until Russia ends this war, Ukraine will make sure every barrel of Russian oil comes at a price paid in flames and destruction. A price that makes Putin's threats look exactly like what they are, empty words from a weakening position. December 1st, 2025. The night Putin's war speech backfired, the night Ukraine proved threats mean nothing, the night Russian oil burned brighter than any propaganda. This is Ukraine's strategy now, relentless, calculated, devastating, and Putin can't stop it no matter how many speeches he makes.